So at this part, we're actually going to be starting to dive into our special segment. Sometimes we do this with back alley chat. Sometimes we do product news which is obviously our shut up and take our money. But today we're actually going to be setting up for an interview. Today, it's been a while since we've kind of done that. Now, Mike, let's talk a little bit about this interview. What do we got coming up?
For sure. Now, yeah, it has been just a little while since our last interview. And guys, yeah, for those who haven't really seen what we've done with interviews, is that typically what we like to do is we like to promote businesses and enthusiasts that really contribute to the Nissan community in whether large ways, small ways. We are a very modest grassroots podcast, so we do what we can to promote those who are willing to hang out with us and talk with us. It's really easy to talk Nissan with anybody who's really willing to talk about it. So we did find one great person to talk with. She's got a business here that specializes in first generation Datsun Z cars. Miles, go take the rest. How did you find her, by the way? You're the one who found her, our guest here. And how'd that work out?
Well, from time to time, I kind of fall onto an S30 chassis, and I'm always kind of looking for car parts. And it's always nice to have a certain number of vendors or just business owners that cater to that particular addiction, which is very specific. So I actually was kind of shopping online, and I heard through the grapevine, like, hey, you got to call this person. They pretty much have a slew of these of S30 stuff if you should need it. And I'm like, oh, okay, great. So I started kind of just shopping around. I started shopping their website, and of course, I just started up a conversation about it, and I probably probed them a little too early, like, hey, like, tell me a little bit about your business. They're like, do you want car parts or not? What's going on here? So, and that's kind of what happened with this one. So I was kind of probing around, and I found these folks, and we're going to be bringing it on here in just a moment. Now, hailing, of course, from Denver, Colorado, we have a longtime Nissan Z car owner and enthusiast. This is actually Junkyard Jenny Boyd. And she's going to be coming on here with us in just a few moments. But basically, she's the proprietor of a successful online business, which basically specializes in first generation Z cars. And we're going to go ahead and bring her on right now. So,
All right. Jenny, are you there? Uh,
she's in our
Hi.
green room.
hey, thank you for hanging out in the green room. It's been a minute. I thank you. Thanks for your
And
patience on that one.
listen to all our IT issues, and then, of course, all our Nissan news and motorsports. So, thank you for staying on with us and staying in our green room. Hope you enjoyed the virtual water and snacks. So,
Oh, they were delicious. Yes. And thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
no, it's great. I actually, like I said, we were super excited to have you on the show, and of course, it's always nice when we have an opportunity to talk with vendors that are very in our world. I mean, they're kind of Nissan nerds in themselves, and you very much are a Nissan nerd or a Datsun nerd in this case. So, thank you again for coming on with us. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the business. Of course, obviously you're specializing in S30 um, used car parts, which is a very niche market, and it's a very up and coming market, I would think, at this point, because with the development of everything that's happening with price ranges with the S30 and stuff. But when did you discover or own your first Z car? How did you get the addiction? How was the bug?
Well, I got the addiction back in Votech when I was like, oh my gosh, 16, 17 years old. There was a kid who had moved from Georgia who had, I think, a 77 or 78. That was the first time I'd ever seen one. And I fell in love with them and vowed one day I'd have one. And 1996, I bought this one over here, not that one, this one. And I've had that car forever. And then I did some modifications to it back in 2013. And then the leftover parts that I had, I thought, well, I'll stick these up on eBay and see if I could sell them. And sure enough, I did. And then meanwhile, I bought another car and sold those parts. And then I bought another car and sold those parts. And before I knew it, it was kind of snowballing. And I really tell people I got lucky. I love the Z cars. I've known them for years, and I'd always kind of been a sort of a seller on eBay. And so I just kind of combined the two, quit my day job, and it just took off.
Wow.
So
Wow.
yeah, got a little crazy.
Yeah. So you said 2013? That's when the first sales kind of began?
Yeah, that's when they really began. I had to actually become a legit business in 2015. That year, I actually grossed just over $100,000 in sales.
Wow.
Yeah,
Insane.
it was crazy.
Well, if you think about it, I would say you could cheat yourself and say you're celebrating your 10 years now, or you're celebrating your 8 years. It's up to you.
8 to 10 years. That's
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm gonna wait till 2025, because I think that's really when it made it official. That's when I got my first 1099. Let's just say.
I'd say when you're legal.
When I was legal. Exactly.
So, I mean, that's huge amount of money to be putting that. And I always watch your feeds, and you're always like, picked up another one, and I'm like, oh man, I was like, and so you're not just a person. And for those that don't know, you're not just a person that picks up cars, strips them down, and sells parts, but you're also a lover of Z's too as well. So sometimes you'll be like, you'll put your hands out and you'll feel the vibe on the car. You're like, all right, this is a saver, right? Or this one's like, now that's going to be a parts car. How do you make that determination?
Well, it's even deeper than that too. I mean, honestly, oh yeah. So sometimes I'll pick up a car and then I'll kind of ask for the backstory on it. And then of course, every car I give it a stock number so I can
the hard tug,
how much money it's making. But sometimes I'll give them names based on their previous owners.
It's a bad thing. It's just like when you name dogs, you're going to keep them.
Yeah, their stock number will be based on their other previous owner and the story behind it. A lot of the stories are kind of sad. I might have one that where the owner passed away and I ended up with what was left of it, or something to that effect. But yeah, no, if I do get a car in that's worthy of rebuild, I'll take the hit and I'll sell it as a complete unit, because I'd really rather see it back on the road than part it out. I have a lot of people who are telling me, no, don't part that car out, save it. And then I take the taillights off and the whole tail panel just collapses and rusts. It's like, that one's not savable. I do save the ones that I can. I absolutely do. And I would sell them to somebody who's going to rebuild it, bring it back to life.
Yeah. So I know we had a chance to talk a little bit earlier this week too, and I love the fact that you have this passion for the car. You have such a knowledge base for the car. It plays into the products you're selling, right, and the quality of the parts too. Just like Miles said, you're an actual enthusiast of the car, so you have a knowledge of the car that you know whether a used part is worth selling or not. You're not selling junk. You're able to evaluate that part, but also clean it up and package properly, because I'm sure there's a lot of errors that other people make. Or how does that work? What's your process when you start tearing apart and packaging parts?
Oh, certainly. Yeah. When I get a car in, I'll give it a good look over. For example, we all know that the door glass has a tendency to be really scratched on these cars. And so, I might get a car in that's really dusty. If I take the door glass out, I'm going to clean it up really well. Sometimes I'll even try to polish the scratches out of the glass just to make sure, that it's something that I would want to put in my own car. If it's real bad, then I'll just break it down to where I'll take the metal frame off of it and sell just the metal frame. Those do rust out. But a lot of times the glass is just too scratched to sell, and I'm not going to put that up for sale. Or say the clocks, for example. I get a lot of clocks that don't work. I'll put power to them. If they don't work, then I soak them in a little bit of like gasoline vapor, shake them up, beat them up, do what I have to do, and then make them work. And then if I can make them work, then they get a good polish, a little bit of restoration. I don't do like full on factory concourse restorations. I do them to, for more the daily driver kind of a person. You're going to see, with me, you're going to get maybe the occasional run in the paint, or, I just did a toolkit, and I did it Massey Ferguson red. It's not Nissan red. So it's like, it's close, but it's not the right color. And, I just do that really for the daily driver person who wants nice looking parts, and they don't want to get this part, have to clean it up, have to test it. Does it work? Does it not? Every part's going to be clean, tested, and ready to install.
And I think that's the thing that separated. It's funny. That's the kind of the thing that drew me to talking to you for a potential interview, and really the reason why you're here, because your level of quality and pre-test for all your stuff is not really what you would see normally in the business. Like some people will be like, "Yeah, I've got a clock," and they'll throw it in a box and they'll ship it, and it's full of dust and
Right.
whatever. It's been sitting in whatever shop for 20 years and it smells like cigarettes and whatever, right? And oil, and that's just the way it is. But you actually take a lot of time to make sure that these people are getting what they're hoping for. It's kind of like Christmas every time these people are getting boxes from you, and I really think that's one of the main reasons why you're escalating to be one of the top used 240Z parts vendors that are out there. And because these things aren't available, there's people that are retroing and making this stuff, but there are some hardcore people that really want the original pieces and know that they can at least get a good functioning piece and go from there.
Oh, sure. And let's say that clock doesn't function and I can't make it work. I'm still going to clean it and polish it and all that. And then I just put it in the parts bin. And then, so if somebody needs a knob, if somebody needs the face off of it, or just the lens, or maybe a harness off of it or something, I'll part it off of that.
You're pretty proud of the no part too small
Yep.
slogan.
Yeah.
You told me, what is it the other day? We were talking and you said, somebody called me and they just needed a spring. And you were
it was the spring on the lock cylinder. He needed the spring on the lock cylinder so that, when you put the key in, it comes back. He needed that. I'm like, yeah, heck yeah, I got that.
and that's the thing. That's why you're here. That it's one of those like attention to detail. The super nerddom is at a higher level with you, and I kind of appreciated that, and I could appreciate that attention to detail because I nerd out in that way, in regard. And you're a one woman operation, as it were, right? So you're in there literally cleaning parts and putting them back to the best of your ability, to precondition, basically, right?
Yep, I absolutely do. I'm not a big fan of that Facebook that you so lovingly refer to.
I'm still, if they had MySpace still up, I would still be on MySpace.
I know, right? I know.
I'm an antiquated kind of dude. I apologize.
Oh, antiquated here. I get my cars from Craigslist. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So that's where I get my cars, and I definitely think that the nerd side of it is definitely there. I've got part numbers and interchanges memorized. I've got my inventory memorized, so it's like, I'm definitely nerding out on these Datsuns. I think they're great. Yeah, there's my glass.
Yeah. Speaking of inventory, you're absolutely right. I know we've got a few pictures we're going to be sharing here in the background, but what's your inventory look like? I mean, so this is 8 years in now.
Well,
I mean,
it's
how has it
constantly
grown?
floating, right? You're saying that you're constantly getting inventory, cars kind of come and go, but this is just This is just from today.
Yeah.
So and we were kind of talking about that. I mean, it's funny. Like, this is just kind of like gold. I know it sounds crazy. Like, some people would be like, oh, you've got the yard, but I mean, to me, it's all gold. It's like.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, this car here, the one that we're looking at here, this one came to me. You're basically looking at how I got it. But I dug deeper, and I literally took out the bolts for the sill plate, and I sold those, or the screws, for the sill plates. I sold those. It still had the toolbox lids on it. Took those out, sold them. So that car made me a little bit of money, believe it or not. And I just thought it was too pretty to take apart. I'm sure the doors are actually probably really good shape. I can't remember if they are or not, but I'm keeping that car as that's my yard art. That's my advertising. Yeah, I love that car.
So let's talk about the weird, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So we've all bought in cars that we're just like, okay, I'm buying this car as a parts car, and you find the weirdest thing in these cars when you're. I mean, let's talk
Oh,
about weird. All right, what have you found that's weird in a car?
well, I just did one that I actually plucked out of the mountains, and I found the weirdest stuff in it. So I found MREs, meal ready to eat kits from Buckley Air Force Base from 1972, 3 of them.
That was their
In the
bug
back.
out vehicle.
Huh?
The Datsun was their bug out vehicle.
Oh yeah,
This-
must have been.
The
And then
apocalypse game.
there was a box of Trojans in there that I believe
Gotta be safe. Gotta be
expired.
safe in the apocalypse. You never know.
Oh, well, no, they expired in 1979.
It's all right. They
Brand
stay.
new package.
They're good. Trust me, they're good.
Yeah, it's really interesting stuff. So that was
79.
definitely, yeah. And then the last gas
1979
receipt was in that car. I thought it was ironic. It was July 4th, 1987 was the last time the car was filled up with gas.
Wow.
So, yeah.
4th of
Believe it or
July,
not, you probably
87.
still have real gas in that car before it is whatever
Leaded.
abomination.
Leaded, yeah.
Yeah, leaded gas. The abomination of the gas that's in it. You know. So
Oh, yeah.
that's funny.
Yeah, that car was pretty gross. I took the exhaust manifold off of it, and it just the corrosion that was in cylinder number 6, even after, oh my gosh, how many years would that be? 35 years, just came like pouring out of the exhaust hole on the head. I mean, not even pouring out, it was like spooging out, and I couldn't believe it was still semi-liquid. After all these, it was disgusting. I didn't even bother taking the head off. I mean, this car was just so bad. Everything from the belt line down was toast.
So let's talk a little bit about your personal history. So obviously you're a Datsun fan, and obviously you're truly into restoring these cars right now. But you also have a little bit of a racing history too, as well, yourself, right?
Yeah. Actually, well, it did start with this car behind me. I've had that car for 27 years. And when I met my husband, he was a drag racer. He actually did some Honda drag racing, believe it or not. And he wanted to get into more rear-wheel drive stuff. So we raced this car for one season, hurt it twice just by breaking axles in it. And I said, yeah, no, not this car. I'm done with this car. So we ended up going out and buying a Fox body Mustang, and then built that one and did some racing with it. Unfortunately, we wrecked that one in 2016. He wrecked that one in 2016. So we built another one from the ground up, and that one I'd been racing for quite some time, actually. There was one year, gosh, I wish I would have sent you some pictures. You guys would love this. There was one year where my Mustang was down. I believe it was the 2021 season. And I ended up driving a friend of mine. He had a 1974 Skyline C110, right-hand drive.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a Kimuri, yeah.
This thing was such a blast. It was obviously it's not a Nissan anymore. It's got a 481X turbo motor in it. But that car was just such a riot to drag race, and it right-hand drive. So that one was really fun. So it's kind of neat to be able to drag race and still be into the Datsuns. And we're actually considering taking maybe one of these chassis out there.
I was going to ask. I was like, I see that in your future. I mean, I don't see you reviving. I can't see you reviving the Orient Express, but
no, that one's pretty shot.
But I can see you doing something cool. Yeah, that'd be awesome. That'd be a nice shop vehicle. So
yeah, that would be fun. Definitely would be fun. We've got my local track has closed down officially now, so we've got about a year to sort of regroup and figure out what we're going to do. I know we're going to rebuild my Mustang. I did have a pretty nasty wreck in 2022. We kind of sort of rebuilt it a little bit, but not to the specs that we want to build it to. So now we've got a year that we can really put some effort into it and get it back to where it needs to be. And maybe in the 2025 season, we'll have 2 cars or maybe 3. It just depends. Just depends on what the future holds for us.
So the market's been good enough for you to really put a lot of, I mean, we've talked offline, but I mean, that whole shop behind you was basically dedicated primarily to just the Datsun business that's going on right now. So obviously business is doing well. I mean, we know that the Z market is kind of especially the S30 market is kind of shooting up right now. So the price on parts, I would assume, is increasing as well. But basically, what from you probably got your thumb on the pulse higher than anybody else, if I had to guess. So, what is the Z car parts market like? Is there rarity? Is there scarcity? What do you think?
Yeah, there is. I'm seeing a lot. Really, the biggest shift I'm seeing is that people are going from the resto mods. At least my customers are coming from the resto mods and going back to OEM. I'm finding a lot of customers are looking more for like they want the SUs. They don't want the Webers or the McCoonies. I mean, I'm sure they're still out there. That's just not my customer. My customer's kind of looking more for the OEM stuff. And yeah, there's still a pretty high demand, but I got to be honest with you. Sometimes I feel really guilty about the prices that I see. When somebody's asking $3,500 for a radio, I sold mine for $1,500. I can't do it. I can't. I can't sleep at night when I see prices like that. Price gouging.
Yeah.
Some of my prices are a little bit high, and I'll look over them about once every couple of weeks, and I'll go through and I'll lower the prices. Or one policy I've kind of always had was if you see something on eBay and you think the price is high or you really need that part, call me. I probably have a duplicate. I always sell my things to outside of eBay customers for much cheaper because I can save the fees. I have tons of parts in inventory that are not on eBay simply because I haven't had the time to upload them. So eBay's got maybe a tenth of my inventory on, not even a tenth of my inventory on it. So, if there's something you need for your car, let's say you do need that elusive sill plate screw. You're not going to find it on eBay, but call me, I have it.
Inventory is a big one too, because I know you mentioned. So we saw pictures here, of some of the cars, but you've got more than that, right? You've got.
Yeah, those shipping containers. I've got 2 of them, and they are full, nose to tail, with shelves. The shelving is even organized. Each shelf has a numerical and a alphabetical location, and then all my parts are in totes based on those locations, and I know where everything is. Had a customer this morning ask me, he says, I need a Series 1 fan and fan clutch. Do you have it? And I said, yeah. He says, well, go out to the yard and get it. And I said, okay. And I called him back in 5 minutes with it in my hand because I knew right where it was.
Wow.
So, yeah. So, yeah, it's kind of nice to be able to just go out there and grab something knowing where it is.
I love that too, that sense of organization.
Mm-hmm.
For me personally, part of my job, there's a rule that says if you can't find it right within a certain amount of time, whether it's a minute or 30 seconds or that quickly, then there's a problem. But the fact that you've got exactly where it's at, it seems like you've got an awesome system on hand.
Yeah.
To be very responsive.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, like I said, everything too gets cleaned, photographed, and then inventoried into those shipping containers. And so like I said, I know where everything. One of the shipping containers is kind of the new arrivals, and so that one I really haven't gone through. Like one side of it is new arrivals, and I haven't really gone through that side yet. But what I'll do is when I'm not dismantling a car and I'm finished with all of its inventory, then I might go out there and just grab a whole shelf of stuff and bring it in. And then that'll get processed and cleaned up. And then it goes into the other container where it gets cataloged. And, then I know where everything is. So like that gray car there, it's got a stock number. I think I believe that's CO3. It's a 1973. The driver's side door on that one is going to be being picked up from a guy. I can't remember where he's at, but he's got family in Denver. So he's coming to get that door.
Yeah. Jenny, you're not working right now. It's okay.
Yeah. I'm just saying, it's like, I know. Yeah. My inventory is all in my head.
So, when you get a car in, I mean, what are the few common items which I guess seem to be overly popular? Like everybody needs those all the time. I mean, not necessarily rare, but like, that, okay, I need to set this aside. Like those are always the things that people need for that car.
Manual pedal assemblies, 5-speed transmissions, N47 heads, N42 blocks, 240Z turn signal lights. I mean, hazard switches from pretty much any year except for the 74 to 76. I can't sell those to save my life. But, and really, and door glass, all these racks are full of door glass that you see there, but those are kind of my, they're like the B sides. They're the not great ones. I kind of wait for something better to come in.
It'll get you down the road glass.
Yeah, those are my cheap ones.
It'll pass inspection glass. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So really, and a lot of it's cosmetic, but every once in a while I will get somebody who's like, I desperately need an E88 head with a C cam, or I need a timing cover or something to that effect.
All the weird Datsun nerd questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, there are things that I've got multiples of that I can't sell, like the trim that goes over the dome light, for example. I probably have 20 of those just in various colors, just sitting there waiting for a new home.
Are there any parts that you're finding are hard or rare to come by nowadays with the S30 chassis?
Yeah, radios, AM radios for sure. Power antennas with the pointy tip. I'm having a hard time getting those. Really anything Series 1, kind of struggling to get a hold of. And when I do get a hold of it, that first car, that car I did a couple weeks ago, this red one, I call it a Series 1 transition car. It's not a true Series 1 with the vents, but it had, the Series 1 alternators, metal fan, the earlier stuff mixed in with the later stuff. But it had a good radio, a good AM radio, and, stuff like that. But there was a lot of things on it that I literally had to throw away because they were just not in great shape. I mean, it had a pointy tip antenna on it, but the mast had a cut in it. Like somebody had nicked it with a pair of pliers or something. And it was just heartbreaking. I'm like, no. But I kept the body of it, because I know that the motor works. And one day I'll come across a pointy tip mast with a bad motor and I'll put the two together. So I'm going to keep it.
Yeah. You'll find that perfect combination too.
So you're just not, and the other thing too I wanted to mention as well is you're not necessarily also pulling parts. You actually take the time to, and people can't see all this because it's all to the left and the right of you, but you actually take the time to like blast parts if somebody's going to be putting it in paint. All right, cool, and you'll prep it for them, and then your packaging is at a whole nother level from what I understand. Like you're spending the time to actually wrap everything versus, normally you order stuff and you get it shipped and then it's always breaks in that one little spot where it's weak. And don't get me wrong, I like Datsun S30s. I've had a few of them before. But let's talk about the quality in the 70s of some of this plastic stuff from the beginning. I mean, you breathe on it wrong and it's going to crack on you. So you're getting these pieces that are like, unicorn horns. And so you're taking the time to make sure that when these things do ship, that they're shipping with quality, they're clean, and then shipped out with quality and love in mind as well. And that, again, that's one thing that I believe separates you from most your typical vendor where you get it and you got a 50-50 shot of it being not damaged when they took it out. And then, of course, a 50-50 shot of getting it damaged when it ships.
Right, exactly. And that's when, when it comes to cleaning the parts, I have a blaster, I have a hot tank, I've got a sonic cleaner. I do a lot of the vinegar and salt things, I do anything I can to really clean them up. And then, of course, they'll either get painted or clear coated, or I don't have a zinc plater yet. Probably going to start working on that. Maybe mid-year next year, I might start zinc plating. Things like that. But yeah, when it comes to packaging, what I like to do is I imagine I'm getting the part. And so, like I shipped out a taillight today and it got double wrapping this way and then double wrapping that way and then wrapped in paper and then, bubble wrap around that. So I really want to make sure that the parts get there. I do have a guy over here is asking me about warranties. I literally guarantee everything I sell. Absolutely guarantee everything I sell is so if I send you a part and it arrives, let's say a combination switch, or no, here's a better example. I had refurbished a hazard switch on a 77, 78, got into it, cleaned all the connections, did everything, shipped it off to the guy. He said, only the passenger side of my car is working, the driver's side's not. I said, okay, send it back. And he sent it back and I gave him a full refund. And I will do that on everything. You know, with these cars, I don't want to stick people with parts that don't work, that are ugly. They're just not happy with it, whatever. I'm real easy when it comes to returns. I want to make sure that my customers are happy.
Yeah.
You know, I
And
don't.
for those that don't know, the question that was asked, if you're following the YouTube and not following the feed, which there's a difference. It said, Jenny, I signed on late, so maybe you answered this question already. Do you give a warranty on any moving parts or electronics, which she just discussed right now? So that was the answer to that question, just for you know.
George just followed up as well. Said great policy, shows integrity and honesty. So that's great things.
Thank you, George, for that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, thank you, George. For sure. Well, like I said, I mean, it's, you know, well, this truck over here, for example, I just bought a speedometer or instrument cluster for it, and I plugged it in, and the only thing that worked was the check engine light. And when I messaged the seller, he said, "That's the risk you take when you buy a used electronic part."
Oh, what? No, that's what a seller's supposed to be, that verification and security that comes with.
Right.
You obviously have it the right. You have it the right way.
You have the right mindset as a business owner.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, so now I'm stuck with a part that doesn't work, and he's not going to refund me. And to me, that's unfair, and I'm not going to do that to my customers. If I send you a tachometer, I can't test it. That's the problem. I can't test my parts. I don't have, you know, the right equipment. I don't have donor vehicles laying around with good batteries. You know, so if I get a tach and it's not responding, or it's responding wrong, I don't know that. So I'll clean it up. I'll make it pretty. I send it to you. If you plug it in and it doesn't work, I'm going to refund your money. The only thing I don't do is refund the labor. Okay. And that's kind of where it's like, well, that's what you get for buying these parts. It's like,
you have to draw your line.
Yeah,
you have to draw the line. And some of that kind of comes with buying used cars. I mean, that's just how it is. And I'll tell you right now, I mean, I've bought a lot of cars, and in my younger days when I wasn't doing a lot of my own work, you know, people like you were kind of a godsend to me. Yeah. So I knew that I could at least, I always had that to fall back on. I knew at the end of the day, I knew I was going to get the part working. It just, if it was going to happen on the first or the second one. And for me, back when I cared, at that point in my life, it was the originality. I was trying to keep things, you know, as original that I wanted everything to be at that time. So, I mean, it says a lot on it. And that's kind of, again, one of the reasons why you're here, Jenny, and why we wanted to show support by talking about your business. So.
Now, you did mention, having great quality in mind and consideration for the customer and the deal and the work that you're giving them. You know, I was looking through your eBay store that you mentioned, and I'm going to share my screen and share this. This is actually awesome to see. And
we're real-time grilling Jenny. All right.
Yeah. No, we're not even grilling. This is a feather in the cap, because when you look at her eBay store, it's over 10,000 items sold through eBay. Jesus. And you've got a 100% positive feedback. Like, how do you manage 100% over 10,000 items? That is an insane statistic, and it's amazing. It's a great. That brings confidence. If I'm a buyer looking through your catalog and I see that, I don't know, how did you I mean, is that just because it's just in your nature? I mean, how did you manage that?
Hold on. And does it cause you stress at night?
Actually, it does. It does. So it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago, I had sold a distributor to one guy and some bumperettes to another, and I got their packages backward. I have never done that in my entire existence. And so they both contacted me, and they're like, "Hey, we got the wrong thing." And so I was leaving for vacation. And so what I did is I just reprinted the labels and I mailed them to them. And I was like, "Can you stick this on this box, and you stick this on this box, and send it back?" And I'm just waiting for the negative feedback.
You know, I will say 1 in every 10,000 is a pretty good track record.
I know, but I know I'm going to get it. Okay, so you're scrolling up there. You see those bumper brackets there. The second one, no, one more down the 260 Z bumper brackets right there.
Okay.
I need to refurbish those.
That's fine.
Those look like
crap. You're starting to nerd out. So
I'm totally nerding out.
Haley Myers chimed in here and she said, "How many of your cars inventoried actually end up in your garage?"
Oh, I end up in my garage. Actually, none. I've been pretty good, and I think it's because I have this one. that I already don't drive, so I don't need to add any more to the corral that I don't drive.
Sure. Hey, do you want one more? If you could have one more in the garage, I know you probably already have a year in mind. Go on.
I don't know. You know, honestly, I don't know if I do want another one because I don't know. I love parting them out.
Now, you know, the thing is, I do the same thing. I buy 300s from time to time, Z32s, and I do the same thing. I kind of enjoy parting them out. It becomes a little, dare I say, like meditation. Like I kind of zone out, and
Yeah.
and I enjoy like filling the need for somebody that would need that part, and then my buddies too. Like, hey, does anybody need this? And I call them, and we all we're around a campfire, if you will, which is this dilapidated Z32 that we're going to strip down like ants, you know, stripping down a piece of candy in the street. And it's just,
Right.
it's all gone like in a matter of like 24 hours. But it's a great story. We had fun doing it, and everybody got parts of it, that they needed. I mean, that's a pretty cool karma way to live, and it sounds like you're kind of living that way as well.
Well, the worst part is I got in this one the other day and I took it for a drive, and I'm kind of looking around and I'm like, man, so I have a dashboard for it that I got on a Horde that I bought, beautiful dashboard. Haven't put it in. It's been probably 5 years that I've had that dash. The door pulls, those suckers on this car, like super faded and kind of warped, but I know I've got a really nice set of them. I need to pull those and put them in this car. Little things like that, or the dash, the defrost cowl on mine's got a little tiny bend in it. I've got ones that are perfect. Neglecting this, and I'm like,
you could probably start doing like the whole like building towards a semi concourse kind of thing. I mean, it's not like you don't have the inventory or the options for it. So.
That car's so modified. It's not concourse quality.
So you have one great, one mild.
Now you got two Datsuns.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, don't listen to us because this is how the addiction starts with us.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. No, I just can't. My biggest problem is I just don't have the time. I don't have the time, to really to build another one. Between this car and the race car, I'm kind of tapped out for time. So
yeah, well, I mean, these parts, taking the time to clean them and all those minutes translates into hours, and then answering and fielding all the phone calls that you do. You got to go from there.
Yeah.
Ryan said, addiction, what?
Yeah. Well, and that's what I was wondering too, because I'll give you an example. There was a few parts I had multiples of, and I had like four of the same part, and I always told myself, well, I'm going to keep one for myself and sell the other three. And then sure enough, I sold all four in one day. Like, it was just like, what happened to my own collection? Like, it's hard to say no.
And then
sometimes.
What do you tell your brain? You tell your brain, you know what? I'm just going to buy more. And that's how it is. And next thing you know, you're a Junkyard Jenny. That's it.
Exactly.
That's it. Just stay out of her world. Stay out of the S30 world, because that's her baby right
Of course. Yeah.
No, I don't mind competition. It's fine. Actually, I think honestly, to me, it's the more people who are out there doing this, the better. I think it's really like a good community effort to keep these things on the road. I really do like seeing them on the road, and then I get a lot of people who are like, I'm so glad I came across you. You're a lifesaver. I just sold a bunch of parts to a guy in Canada. I think I shipped him out yesterday, and he's like, he's got triple Webers on his, and he wants to go back to the OEM. The SUs with the E46 manifold, and that's what he wants. And he's like, I cannot believe you have this. And I had everything from the carb to the manifold, the heat shield, the linkage, the air cleaner, everything. And he was so excited to have it. And he's gave me kudos, and I was like, I kind of I'm just so glad I could help people get their cars back on the road and not rake them over the coals when it comes to pricing on it too.
Right.
It was a lot of money probably for him, but it was a lot less than a lot of the ones I've seen out there go for. So
you're helping lots of people now. Let's talk about helping a lot more in the future. So what is the future plan for Junkyard Jenny's Z parts?
Well, I guess I would just like to expand more, as far as, I don't have any employees. The reason for I don't have, not having employees is because I'm just afraid that I'm not going to be able to find anybody who wants to do it the way I do it. I'm very particular with the way I take them apart, the way I, clean them up, the way I inventory.
We might have just
Is
shut
me.
for a second. There you go.
Oh, there we are. If I
Yeah,
could find somebody who's just as addicted to these cars as I am, then that would be great. I definitely want to expand. The thing I'm afraid of is that if I get a little too big for my britches, I might end up kind of losing a little bit of that quality, especially in the customer service department. I hate putting people on the back burner and telling them, it's going to be a couple of days. I'm slammed. But I do want to expand. I want to get as many of these cars and people back on the road as I absolutely can. So,
So,
just
and you
gotta,
field and not to backtrack a little bit, but you field calls. So people say, "Hey, I'm looking for this." You literally have a wish list, like for people, like, "Hey, I'll put you on the list," and so you kind of go and you're like a Z hunter in a way for these parts. So when they come in, you basically call them. And it's crazy. Like, I don't even know any other business like in the car world that kind of does that anymore. Like, I
yeah,
used to do that when I worked in a music store. Somebody called, like, "Hey, I need this live
CD.
Barry Manilow when he was live at," and you're just like, dude, they made like, they made 500 pressings of that. I'm never gonna find it. And then sure enough, one day, hey, I got that Barry Manilow live, and you're kind of like that guy. You're like that cool music store person that does that. So again, if you're listening and you have an S30 and you're just like, there's no way anybody's ever gonna find this part for me, call Junkyard Jenny, get on the list, and maybe
that's right. Yep. I
when it
have a
comes in,
whiteboard that I keep, like it'll say, this guy needs a 5-speed, so he'll get the next 5-speed that comes in, or, this guy's looking for a Series 1 R180 transverse mount bar, okay, he'll get the next one that comes in or whatever. So yeah, they're all, everything is written down, and then like I don't know if you can see it, that box back there on the shelf is full of parts that a guy had ordered, and I was talking to you guys about this a couple days ago. He kind of disappeared off the face of the earth. Well, I get an email from him today, and he's like, "I am so sorry. I had some medical problems. I still want those parts. Please don't sell them." And I'm over here laughing because I wasn't gonna.
Yeah. Well, you're doing a reasonable goal for somebody, and that's respectable. So I get that. So
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're still there for him when he needs them. I mean, there's some really good parts in that box. I mean, there's a lot of money sitting in there, but
Yeah.
like I said, I mean, he's got some issues going on, and I'm not gonna
that's nice.
throw him under the bus. I'll wait. I got other
See,
stuff to do.
that wouldn't happen in any other kind of a world other than like the car community. And the Z world is kind of like its own like Volkswagen bug kind of feel that people don't realize yet. Like people just kind of look out for one another because we understand the addiction,
Yeah.
and which is why you're on the Nissan Nerd podcast with us here today. So let's talk a little bit about how people kind of would get a hold of you
Sure.
for the business. Mike, is there anything before we get into details about the business? So let's talk about the eBay store. So if people want to get a hold of you, they can check you out through zcarcrazy74 is your seller profile on eBay.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Got it.
And if you don't, if you're not, you don't have to peruse all of my listings. I mean, those are just kind of, whatever car has come in that week that's what's listed off of that car or that horde or whatever. Really, if you're looking for something more specific, then you can really just contact me direct. A lot of times too, though, like let's say, for example, you need that glove box switch or door switch or whatever that is on there. You can contact me directly and say, "Hey, I need that switch." I'll pull it off of eBay and we can just deal with you directly too. I can do it that way. We can do it through eBay. Sometimes people are a little leery about me deleting something off of eBay and selling direct. Is she legit? I get that, and they want to go through eBay to make sure that they've got their tracks covered, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Probably doing that, but if there's something kind of oddball that's definitely not on there, and you don't think I would think to have, then the best way to get a hold of me is to either, contact me through my website, my phone, or Instagram usually, or even Facebook too.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned it here too. So website, well, first of all, eBay store, and we'll say it again here. The seller profile, Z Car Crazy 74, for those who are interested. I have your website up right now, and that is junkyardjenny.com.
Yep.
And it has uh, uh, contact information here. There is some links to the eBay sales, but you do have here on the bottom more information about you. Also, that inquiry that if you can't find the part, contact you. You're available, and even they're saying technical support too. So help with making things fit. And they said we understand the struggle is real. I really enjoy that.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. Also on the website, there is the phone number, and we'll go ahead and put it here on the podcast as well.
Okay.
It's area code 720-835.
No.
Sorry,
385.
385-8569.
Mm-hmm.
285s. That makes sense. That's easier to remember. So, and then also Instagram, and we'll be adding. If we haven't added you already,
Did you? Can I just say something? Yeah, your phone number is 720-385-8569. If you take that number and you break it up, you can find all the numbers for 867-5309.
Oh, please don't.
So I won't do it. Obviously, it's a well.
Oh
yeah,
my God! I see it now.
I'm showing my age right there. But,
That is so funny. I never even would have thought about that.
7, 5. Is there a 3? There's
3. 309.
Oh my God! It's all there.
All you did, Jenny, is you changed up your whole number.
You changed the numbers to the song.
We found you. That's it. We found you now.
Oh, how hilarious!
See, that's the OC. A weird music OCD that kind of kicks in you, right?
That's funny.
If you need to get a hold of Jenny, I don't know why I even said that. 720-385-8569. And your Instagram page is use.zcar.parts.
Parts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I'm assuming they can contact you there. Again, through the website, through Instagram. Through you have a number of channels. So for anybody who's listening and interested in a part, you really have no excuse how you can't get a hold of Jenny. So please do. I was thinking about this too, which was, it's like, it sounds crazy, but yeah, the whole, buy local, buy small business. Like that's a real thing. Like this is, and this is kind of why I love doing this with the podcast.
I say buy Z community is what I like to say. Support the community that supports you, supports your addiction. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, and that's kind of one of the reasons why we like to support. I would say you're not even starting off anymore. You're 8 years into this business, and we know that you're only going to develop and get larger. Hopefully larger after this, but you were already on that track way before us anyway. But we hope that you're going to do really well, and hope that you're going to continue to grow. I want to hear about some other stories later on and have you on a little bit later. And I want to hear more crazy stories about cars you buy and weird stuff you find in it. So.
Oh, absolutely. I'd love to. Yeah, definitely.
All right.
Awesome.
Well, again, I want to thank you again for coming on with us. And
thanks so much for having me too. This has been really fun.
Cool.
So,
Great.
Did you think this was what it was going to be when I called you and asked you to be on the podcast? You were like, what?
Well, I've never really been on one, so I didn't know what to expect. But no, this is great. This is fun.
Now we're pretty easy to work with. So we're glad you kind of took the time to come on with us. And again, we'll keep in contact, and who knows, we'll probably have to call you for car parts at some point.
Yeah.
I'll be here.
Well, go ahead. If you want to stay in the green room with us a little bit, Jenny, you can come on at the end of the show and we'll kind of chat. But other than that, we're going to start working towards the end of the show. But again, thank you for being on with us again.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, anytime.
Cool. Anytime.
All right.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
All right.
Bye, everybody.
Yeah.
Bye. Bye.